What's up, everybody? It's Relentless here, and yes, it's another division build video, and today I bring you something a little also on the different side of things instead of the same old that you see here in the DZ. I've become like the little mad scientist, just trying out different things and whatnot, and I must say this actually works pretty well. So if you're new to the channel, thanks so much for tuning in. Ground and pound that sub and like button, and don't forget to turn on post notifications so that way you know each and every time that a new video or a live stream goes up. But anyways, without further ado, let's hop right into it. I call it the Pred-Tician. Alright, as you can see, it's 3 Pred, 2 Tactician with the Ninja bag. Now, nothing has been maxed or optimized fully, so your numbers will vary. But as you can see, I'll go over each of the numbers, but the toughness does not reflect because once I get to the Ninja bag here, you'll see that it has stability in its major attribute, and here you would want health, and that's another 14 to 15k, so that's going to put you around 465, 470k toughness with 153k skill power. And as you can see, I'm still laying down plenty of DPS. Start with the guns. 19.6k base damage with deadly, unforgiving, and responsive. And the magazine, we have magazine size, crit damage, crit chance. In the optics, we have crit damage, headshot damage, and crit hit chance, which is the trifecta. And in the small muzzle, we have crit hit damage, crit hit chance, headshot damage. And in the small underbarrel, we have crit hit damage, reload speed, and stability. And also you want like some kind of secondary weapon or even a sidearm as to what I have on mine. In this particular, I'm using a Vector 21.2k base damage with sustained, which killing a target increases your health by 6%. Deadly for the extra crit damage, and then we have predatory. Killing a target regenerates 35% of your health over 20 seconds. So after you kill such as an NPC, for instance, whether in your dark zone or you're in the light zone doing some PvE, some light work, instead of waiting the full 20 seconds to get that 35%, while you're waiting on it, you get 6% off each kill. So that coincides together and works out really nicely as far as to saving on medkits, and helps you out in a tough jam, especially if you're waiting on your healing skills to come back. But on top of that, I also have this LVOAC. As you can see, it's only a 260 gear score, so I'm waiting to optimize it and get the base damage on up there along with the enemy armor damage. But as you can see, it also has predatory, sustained, and competent. Now moving on, oh, I forgot to show you my sidearm. Yeah, it's this beast right here, the Police 686 Magnum, and it has expert and predatory on it. So I'm pretty much covered in all bases. Now let's move on to the gear. Starting with a chest piece, 1876 armor. As you can see, it's not optimized, but it does have the max stamina you can have at 1401. Then we have enemy armor damage and health and ammo capacity. Now you don't have to have enemy armor damage, but if you're doing mostly PvE, then that enemy armor damage will come in handy, but you can sub that out for such things such as skill haste, if you rather have some skill haste, all resist, some EDR, whatever the case may be. Whatever fits your playstyle, and also it depends on if you're doing PvE or PvP, but you definitely want health also in your major attributes, and then as always you want ammo capacity in your minors. Now moving on to the mod slots, we have firearms with health and another firearms with health. Moving on to the mask, we have a Tactician mask, pretty decent electronics roll, and then we have skill power as the major attributes, and then the minors we have 10% damage to elites, which also helps out really nicely when it comes to those PvE situations. 999 armor, which is almost the max you can have, which is 1001, and once I optimize it one more time, it should have at least 1000 or 1001, and that will up my toughness just a little bit. But if you accumulate all the gear and if it was completely optimized, the armor values would go up, therefore your toughness would go up. In the mod slot, we have firearms with skill power. Moving on to the knee pads. Tactician's Authority knee pads, a little low on the armor, but as you can see, it's not fully optimized yet. you can mix and match it up as far as I went with crit hit damage here, but also I have knee pads. Also, I can switch around like the Predator's mark down here with other Tactician pieces if I would choose to be a little more tanky with the health. Or I have like these down here if I wanted to switch it up and go back to crit damage. But it pretty much whatever fits your playstyle. Since you are using Tactician, you are getting the skill power bonus, but most importantly also that coincides with that is the skill haste. And like I said, you can pick, mix and match whichever best suits your playstyle in the major attributes. If you want to be a little more tanky, if you want to put out a little more damage, or if you want a little more skill power, then by all means. In the minors, I have bleed resistance, shock resistance, and burn resistance. And then the mod slots, I have firearms with health and first aid self-heal. Moving on to ninja bag, messenger bag, like I mentioned earlier, in the major attributes right here, instead of stability, you would want health, so that way it'll put you around 470k toughness. And as always, in the minor attributes, we have ammo capacity. And in the mod slots, we have stamina with skill power and first aid self-heals. Moving on to the gloves, we have the trifecta, which is crit hit damage, SMG damage, and crit hit chance. Now, if you prefer playing with ARs, you can swap out SMG damage for assault rifle damage. And as you can see, the armor value is pretty decent on this one, but you know, as soon as I optimize it, everything will go up. So I'm not too worried about that. As it sits as is, it's pretty dope. Now moving on to the holster, we have 1390, 1401, and 1370, which is a little low on the electronics, but it'll get there once it's optimized a little bit more. And also I went with crit chance. If you'd rather have skill haste here, but since we are wanting more or less damage on this side, then we want crit chance. And in the mod slot, we have first aid self-heal. Now moving on to your abilities, as far as when it comes to pulse, you can, as you can see here, we have 14% crit chance along with the 18.7% crit damage. So basically with that crit chance, it's going to max you out in crit chance, and in the crit damage, it's going to put you anywhere between around 445 to a little over 150 in crit damage. So that works out really nicely. Like you see, the cooldown is 4190. And then 3810 on your heals. Instead of the health, if you don't mind being a little less tanky, you could always, instead of in the mod slots where I have health, if you're going to put health on your backpack, then that's more or less, it's going to swap it out and your toughness will stay the same. But instead of health on those mods, you can run skill power with skill haste, and that will coincide with the 15% you're already getting from the 2 Tactician. I believe earlier when I was just messing around, I actually had it up to around 39% skill haste. And my pulse was coming back in about 29 seconds, and my booster shot was coming back in about 27 seconds. Talents, which is what everybody knows, adrenaline, triage, especially when running in a group, and since you are using Pred, then you can go with the shrapnel, and I had it on the wrong thing. But shrapnel is applying bleeding to one target, and you got a 30% chance to spread it to all targets within a 10% radius. Works out well in PvP. And then of course you got critical save, but if you're playing within a group, then you want combat medic. So that way not only are they, you know, getting your heals coming through ways of med kit, but also the triage when you shoot down heals from your booster shot will also help your skills come back even so faster. But let's move on to the character sheet. Oh, that's not it. 10%? No. The game's trying to troll me. As you can see, 41% crit chance, and then if you add in the pulse, that's going to put you at max crit chance, and then you crit damage. And if you want to choose, instead of, like I said, health, and if you want to go for a full-out crit build, then you can put a little bit more into skill power instead of health, where it has firearms and health. You can go firearms and skill power, and altogether, out of those, you probably get a little bit over 15k more skill power, and that's going to put you around 168, 170. And also, if you don't mind the toughness exactly where it's at, then you can substitute the extra crit damage, which is on your knee pads, and get that even more extra skill power, and then you'll probably be up around 188 to 190, and that should put your pulse around a little over about 22% crit chance, and that would boost your crit damage up to around 40 or so. So if you want to go a little bit more less tanky and more DPS, then you can just play with these numbers and whatever fits your play style, whatever group you're running in, or if you're just doing duos or threes, whatever the case may be, then you're going to have survivability when it comes to, you have just enough toughness, and when it comes to your footwork, you can actually have long survivability, and then also you have your booster shots, working with your med kits, and also along with your booster shot heals. And then plus, you know, if you got your teammates running you, then you're going to get those heals really quickly. Then moving on, 18% stability, that's coming from the backpack, where it should be health there. And then we have, you know, 14.5% reload speed, which is, you know, that comes along with the Predator. 8% assault rifle damage, 20% SMG damage, 0 health on a kill, 10% damage to elite, 6% enemy armor damage, skills 153.3 with 15% skill haste. But like I said, that's 15% is a given, but if you want, ever how which way you do it, the sky's the limit. If you prefer more skill haste, then by all means spec into skill haste, and then you can get your heal and your pulse back really quick. And then survivability, as you can see, the armor values, it mitigates only 32.13. That's because none of the gear is completely optimized. But you want to, I generally don't necessarily run too much unless it's at least above 32. But about 33, 33 and a half, 34 is pretty much the sweet spot where you want to shoot for, if by all means. And once, you know, I acquire better gear, then I can switch these things out. But not only get the bleed for those runners that just wants to either flag and just take off running because they got Nomad, and like it was in the DZ earlier, once again, dude with Nomad just wants to go hide on a rope until, you know, he can have his Nomad proccing again, and we were just straight beaming and torturing him. And with Raging Merc and my pulse, it was all she wrote. But as you can see, I can mix and match, go with more crit chance if I wanted to, instead of the also roll to electronics if I really wanted to be more DPS wise. I can easily switch that out, and then a Tactician holster, however you want to. I think yeah, see, I for instance don't have any Tactician's gloves that's really worth a hoot right now, so therefore I'm just using Predator's mark, and the holster that I had was even more crappy at Tactician, or I have it here, and then, but the armor value on this mask is pretty good. I mean, you can't get much better unless it was 1001 armor. And then, but just play around with it. But with 3-piece Predator and the Ninja Bag and 2 Tactician, it essentially gives you everything, the 4-piece, the reload speed, assault rifle damage, SMG damage, and then hit 10 shots without switching targets to make the target bleed for 50% of damage dealt. And if you're pulsing first and hitting pretty much nothing but crits, then that bleed is going to be significant enough to really put a hurting on someone without having to run the 9k toughness for the 6-piece. And then as you can see, you get the 10% bonus in skill power along with the 15% skill haste. Try it out. I just been in the DZ with Reggie trying out. It was a lot of fun, especially it was just me and him. We went manhunt by ourselves and pretty much wiped out a squad of 8. I had gameplay saved, and when I went to upload it and put it on to this one, the files for some reason keeps corrupting. So I think I'm just going to have to break down and probably switch up some programs and just go to a different one on my laptop. But I do apologize for that. But try it out. It's really dope. I stand by it. And if you don't want any kind of skill power or skill haste at all, also stay tuned for a Pred Nomad coming up. So I call it the Mad Pred. But stay tuned for that video. It was pretty nice too. It's just making a combination of different things, trying out different things and not being the same old as you see in the DZ, because I don't like to necessarily follow a path. I like to forge my own. But that's going to wrap it up. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to leave a comment in the section below, and ground and pound that like button if you enjoyed it and think this is something that you might try out. And also, if you're not a sub, your subscription would be much appreciated. So if you would like to, doesn't matter whether you do or not, just ground and pound that sub button. But this is your boy Relentless. As always, be kind to one another, as always, and be yourself. But yet you don't have to be a prick in order to get your point across. Just be nice, be kind. You'll get a lot further in life. And also rebel against the world. Romans 12:2. Be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. Don't fall into these traps that this world will set you in, because it's not looking out for you. The only one that cares most about you is you. But that's going to do it. Enough rambling. We'll see you guys fudging later.